Well, hello. So in this video, we're going to do something really cool. Imagine if you had an opportunity to speak to Seth Godin or Eric Ries or Steve Blank. By the way, if you don't know who these people are, American author, you can see here, wrote a lot of books on marketing specifically. I've read many of these books. This is one of my favorites. This is marketing. He's lectured. He's an entrepreneur, similar to Eric Ries. If you're in this channel, I like startups and I also like entrepreneurship and marketing. So again, Eric Ries is another guy I've read, especially the Lean Startup book, where he actually came up with the Lean Startup methodology with his colleague. I think he lectured there, Steve Blank, where at Stanford. So he went there and he Steve Blank actually came up with a lot of the philosophy, the thinking. Anyway, long story short, Steve was one of the students then that actually embraced this and took it into a book format. So the Lean Startup, which again, great books. But my point here is, imagine if you had the opportunity to speak to these people and ask questions that are really applicable to your problem at at the moment. So what I thought, man, would it be cool to build NotebookLM and feed it with all information that you can find publicly, and also if you bought a book, add that book into into their knowledge base and start interacting with it. So that's what we're going to do. So I've built one for, and we're going to test this with some questions. I've also built one for Eric Ries, and we're going to compare that, right? Compare it, and I'm going to show you how you can build one for yourself. So whatever hero or resource that you often use, you want to interact with that person. Well, now you have the opportunity to source that into a notebook LMs, and actually source additional information like podcasts, videos, and books, and all that sort of stuff. So now, before we do that, one thing to note is a little thing here is when you do that, make sure you customize the conversation style. You want to be like sort of like in this case Seth Godin, and I have a prompt there, so you can actually. And these are the questions we're gonna sort of ask along the way. But you can see here, prompt here, this prompt will allow you to use it in ChatGPT or Gemini and actually say, hey, I want you to write instructions for whoever that person is, including a tone, so you can get that, you can plug that back into NotebookLM and you got that. So so I just put in Eric Ries or Seth Godin, and this is the output of that prompt, and I put it into the define your conversational style. Okay, so it's custom. Okay, so and then make sure you can put long, short, whatever you want, but save it. So so we've got one for Eric Ries. We've got one for Seth Godin. You can do, like I said, many others. So let's start by saying, if you have these questions, and if you're a marketer or you're a founder, you probably want to ask, how do you stand out? How do you stand out from the crowd? And so let's ask that question to Seth and see what he thinks. So this would churn a little bit, of course. But my point here is that what you're doing is having questions that are very, very specific to your business need or marketing goal. So, look, so you're looking to make a mark in the sea of samenesses, aren't you? Great. Look, this is him talking. You're actually having conversations from his knowledge base based on all the data, all the sources from, videos for his website, his book. Again, like I said, if you have all his books, you can upload it because you already purchased it, right? So you're going to interact with those books. And this is a great way to run these questions. So you can see here, this is very what Seth's talking about. So, the classic minimal viable audience he talks about. Embedded marketing in a product, not just ads. Embrace risk. Playing it safe is a risk move. I mean, these are the sort of building safeguards, make it easy for users to engage, succeed, and tell their friends. So spreading, I mean, he uses the example because he uses examples, right? He brings examples from his books and from his literature into the conversation. It's like talking. So, and then if you wanted to also, you can create an audio. You can create let me move this. You can create an audio version of this. You can generate a custom audio and customize it, 2-person, 1-person, so you can learn even further if you wanted to. Okay, so let's try. So we've got that question. Let's see what would Eric say. again, when I go back to Eric, you go to firstly prompt it. Fine, just literally will say something like, tell me all information that you know about Eric Ries and his books, any podcasts and stuff. And if you can't find that, find enough, you can actually go into Google, YouTube, because he often talks about, he has conversations in YouTube, like here, right? He's talking there, and I've added that into the Notebook LM. So what you do is add a YouTube, which is, or if you want to have your own copy and paste, put it, if you have books and it's in an audio format, you can upload them as well. Okay, amazing. So, what would Eric Ries? So this is Seth Godin's response, and you can tell it's very driven by his books, his knowledge about the purple cow, and his other books like the This Is Marketing, especially around minimal viable product. Right, that's one of the core things I remember reading about. So let's go, Steph. Steph, what do you? How do we? How do we create how do we stand out in a crowded category? And this is important because I know that every product is unique, but you belong in a category, so you want to break through that category and position yourself in a way that is very clear to the audience that you're targeting. So you can see here, radically different in a crowded so his approach, and again, if you look at it's a this is what Eric would say, because this is Eric's tone of voice. And again, the prompt for that is here. So you can pause this, you can just replace that. You can ask it. Anyway, let me just move myself here for a second on the video. So I'm going to embrace, see, this is how Eric will talk about, right? Validating your learnings. He will talk about the minimal viable product as opposed to minimal viable audience. Build, measure, that's the loop that he often talks about. So it's great to see this come alive in the context of how I should build, how do I make sense out of these, how do I create a position for me, for my company in a crowded space. Um, Adapt and learn. So these are the stuff. And what's cool about this is that you can actually reference where the sources are coming from. So if you're going to want to dive into this a little bit further, you can go in and dive into it. The point here is how you can actually have tee up all your resources, use it from podcasts to videos to books, literature, and create a persona that you can interact with, right? This is super important. Let's see what he will say about this one, because this is a common one. When I was facing with Hivery, we're often a founder led, because you're building and not and working on the business, but you want to obviously become more repeatable in your approach. So let's see what Eric will say about this question, and hopefully it provides some. And again, this will be an Eric Ries conversation or insight from him. So what you can do essentially, you can have multiple books. You can have Seth Godin, Eric Ries, and or Steve Blanks in this case, right? Have multiple books and you get different perspectives from these leaders. So again, if you wanted to build this out, so if we were as this is let's just say here, okay. So how I'll do the second if I have to build this one. So let's go discover. Tell me all information about this person. Again, I'm just taking shortcuts. Now this is going to again build the resources so I can interact with that resource. It's like building a brain. So it's got news wiki. It's got some of these learning stuff. Or that's one of his famous books, short form. It's fine because this is all in a public domain in a way. So and then now what we're going to do is use the prompt, right? Use this prompt. I'm going to use you can use this prompt to customize the what's happening here. Customize the instructions. So I was going to put this in here. Okay, let's go into prompt, and what we're going to say here, replace this is as Steve Blank. Okay, so we're going to get a Steve Blank edition that we can actually use. So here we go. Act as Steve Blank. Paste this in. Boom. Make it shorter. Okay, and just don't forget to save. Okay, so now that's saved. Now we can actually ask this question. So same question. right? How do you move from a founder-led to a marketing-led motion? Let's get his perspective. So what you're doing here is getting different perspectives from Eric Ries. From let's just see what Eric said here. Just in a crowd. Where are we? Where is this? Right time to shift. You should be transitioning board efforts after you understand the business model. That's true. Once you understand the business model, you know your partnership approach, your marketing approach, your sales motion, your product market fit, and that's when you start hiring people to replace you. Basically, you can test what's the methodology. But it goes back to his again. It's very driven by what who would say, right? Measure so in the early stage start. See, he's using the same methodology from a sales perspective. In early sales efforts are essential, critical to building this loop. You should accelerate how you learn and customer respond to determine where you pivot. See, it's using the same methodology that Eric would use, but apply to this question. The question is of when's the right time to move from a founder led to a repeatable led. And again, you can use this is Steve Blank's response. Before you think about Michael, you should just get out of the building. That's what he was saying. That's famous for get out of the building and search. So basically, when he talks about customer discovery, um, um, and validating your needs and stuff. But I remember that line from his book. So I get out of the building. I get out of the building, and then if you've been to any lean startup events, that was kind of the mantra. So that's it. That's the video today is really around short and sweet, really about, I was thinking about how it would be cool to interact with these thought leaders around my personal problems. And if you have a thought leader that you use, either a podcast or a book that you subscribe to or a video, download download all their knowledge now in a public domain area, right? Go and search for that, and add it to NotebookLM. So remember to add it to add whatever the website, or if you have slide decks, or you had a YouTube, or you have copy and paste, add that in. You can see all sorts. Add it in, create a custom conversational style, and in this case is Eric, because that's what I want to speak to Eric, and start asking questions that are really applicable to you. So like always, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with others, because I'm again passionate about this area, and I want to come up with ideas and content like this. I get excited and I want to share it with you guys. Okay guys, bye bye.